Issue number 2 of DCKO is here, and it's awesome. The first issue was good, but nothing special, nothing too great. Took a while to get going, but issue 2 jumped straight into the action, and I loved it. This is one you should definitely be checking out. I'm hoping the next 2 issues can carry on what's been established here and keep that momentum going because it's really cool. I like this a lot. It's from Scott Snyder, Josh Williamson, Javi Fernandez, and it's a lot of fun. Now, that being said, spoilers if you haven't read it. I'm going to be getting into spoilers from here. So let's get into this. At the end of last issue, we started the beginning of this tournament and it got narrowed down to 32 DC characters made up of various heroes and villains. And in this next part, they're told by the announcer of this tournament to become King Omega and his new universe Darkseid had to take to collect power from his kind, primordial beings, gods. Here, each of you must do the same, but from your own kind, your fellow champions. So they're in this new arena, and they're told they each need to find an item to make it to the next round. So there's 32 of them, and there's only 16 items. And if by the time the final item is found and you don't have one, you're toast. You're done. You don't make it to the next round. And there's a ton of different items. There's Blue Beetle Scarab. There's a God Killer Sword. Thor's Hammers here. Soul Taker Sword. Lasso of Truth. So on and so forth. There's a bunch of them. But it is kind of funny because there's all these different things. There's like a Speed Force ring. There's all these cool items. And there's just Bane's Venom. It's like, oh man, all these cosmic incredible powers, then super steroids. Ooh, it's like who would go for that instantly? Like, why was that be what you're going for? The arena is a graveyard of elder gods slain by Darkseid, and as soon as the announcer tells them, "All right, you're good to go," everyone just takes off and instantly starts going for an item. Heroes and villains alike, except for Superman. What I really liked from the first issue and continues on this one is Superman's trying to sort of take care of everyone. In the first issue, when it was a race to the finish line, Superman obviously could have been there only beaten by a Flash. Otherwise, he could have been one of the first ones there, but he was trying to help his fellow heroes and take on some villains, and he does the same here. And the narration even says that Superman feels like his purpose here is to make sure the villains fail. And I kind of like that. I like that Superman's so selfless because it makes sense for his character that you have all these other great heroes that aren't even really considering everyone else and just thinking, me, I need to go and win this so that way everything works out. But Superman's more like, man, if like Jay Garrick or Wonder Woman wins it, that's fine by me. I just got to make sure a villain doesn't. I like that. I like that. Even though a lot of other heroes would probably assume that it'd be best if Superman won, like Batman was saying in the first issue, where it's like, Superman, you gotta win. Like, out of everyone, you need to be the one that wins. And I like that a lot. So Superman slows down some villains and then prioritizes going after Lex because remember, whoever wins this tournament gets to reshape the DC universe in their image. Now that makes sense for him to go after Lex, but I feel like it would take half a second to take Joker completely out of the equation. Like, he could easily just pick him up and take him as far away from the action as possible and then come back in like literally like half a second. It wouldn't take any time he could get back to Lex. But I guess he feels Lex is so much more of a threat that's why he goes after Lex. And, obviously it's more personal for Lex. But man, just Joker winning would be so much worse than anyone else. I feel like maybe should have had him do that. But also, if you do that, then you take Joker out of the equation. And obviously, Scott Snyder wants to use Joker to cause some mayhem in this, like he does in this. Because while Superman is going after Lex, we see what the other people are going for. The constant gag in this is Guy Gardner is going after items, and every time he gets to one, someone just nags right before he can. Guy tries to go after the Speed Force ring, but Harley hits him with a hammer and takes it, which the whole time, the leading up to this event, when it's like, how is Harley going to be able to beat anyone ever? Well, they gave her a Speed Force ring, but it seems kind of stupid that she's the one that's able to get to it, or that she's able to take Guy out. If I remember correctly, I feel like in Jeff Johns' Green Lantern, he established that like the Green Lanterns have like an auto protection thing to where even when their guard's not up, they can't get taken out. But he just gets hit by Harley's hammer here and just gets taken out. So it's like, okay, I guess that's not really a thing anymore. I don't know. I know some people be like, but remember when he got punched by Batman? Yeah, but that was pre-Jeff Johns. Anyways, I just hate that. I hate Harley doing anything. I hate modern Harley. This ain't like, 2015 anymore. She's not even super popular anymore. Her comics don't really sell. I don't get why she's here. We don't need Harley. I hate that she's a part of this tournament. But anyways, aside from that, the rest of the issue is really good. We see some other things going on, like Joker grabs Adam's belt, so he's able to grow and shrink, and he becomes ginormous, and he stomps on some people and chomps on some people and causes a lot of mayhem. Now back to the Superman Lex stuff, because that to me is the highlight of the issue, and it's also the bulk of this issue, but it's the best. Like, Scott Snyder is in his bag here, and he does some great work here. I really loved it, and of course Javi Fernandez is incredible on this. It's really cool. His action is so good. I love the way he draws action. All of these heroes and his panel layouts are really cool. And we have Superman just giving Lex the business. He's just trying to take him out, trying to make sure he can't do anything. He can't grab one of these objects, and he's just giving it to him until Lex exposes him to an array of kryptonite. And Lex talks about how it's a great time to be a connoisseur of kryptonite because how readily available it is. Because if you haven't been reading Superman Unlimited, that's the Dan Slott Superman series, and it's not very good. It's not terrible. It's just a very mid book that I wouldn't say is worth the money. Anyways, in the beginning of that, a giant kryptonite asteroid hit Earth. Superman stopped it from destroying Earth, but that caused to where there's kryptonite everywhere. There's just a ton of kryptonite. Kind of retreading some old ground like we had before with like Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, and all that. But anyways, yeah. So the kryptonite's readily available. So Lex has a bunch. Not that he needs any excuse to have a bunch of kryptonite. And he hits Superman with some, and he gives him this whole speech, which I'll read a little bit from in a bit. But he talks to him about how he had an epiphany while he was in the Phantom Zone. Because if you'll remember in issue 1, the Justice League put a bunch of the high-profile supervillains in the Phantom Zone before going to start this tournament, because they were like, hey, we probably shouldn't go and start this and have a bunch of villains show up. We should put them in the Phantom Zone. But then they escaped somehow. It's like, how did they escape? Well, in Superman 32, which also came out this week, it was revealed that Grodd warned the supervillains about this, because if in KO #1, Grodd is part of this like time team with like Booster Gold and Doomsday or Time Trapper, and he secretly had a link to Lex, and he's like, hey Lex, you should be warned, they're gonna send you guys to the Phantom Zone. And he's telling them this because he doesn't trust the heroes, because when he first tells the heroes, when all of them tell the heroes what to do, Superman's like, no, we're not gonna do it. So he's like, man, maybe the heroes don't have the balls to do what needs to be done. I'm going to warn Lex Luthor. You know, we are Legion of Doom buddies after all. Anyways, Lex thanks Superman for bringing the Phantom Zone to him, and he thanks him by cutting his hand off with a blade he made out of the Phantom Zone. Don't ask me how he did that. He's Lex Luthor, and it's just cool. And I think that's basically what Scott Snyder a lot likes to go with, the rule of cool. Doesn't matter if it makes sense, if it's cool. Is it cool that Lex is wielding a sort of lightsaber made of Phantom Zone energy? Yeah. Does it make sense? Not really, but it's badass, and I'm fine with it here. I think it's pretty cool. He cuts off Superman's hand, and then he gives him this whole speech, which I'll read here. It says, when I arrived here in the heart of Apocalypse, it gave me a vision of what the universe could be like if I won, if everything remade in my image. I assume it did this for everyone. So what was yours, Superman? A better reality? Far better? Diseases cured? Corrupt governments eradicated? A cultural and technological paradise? Am I right? But let me guess, your response to that vision was to reject it. Your goal, even now, is to just put everything back the way it was at the end of this. I know how much you like to listen to heartbeats, so listen now. Do you hear them all up there, full of longing and fear? They want your vision. Maybe they didn't in another time, but they do in this one, because things have changed. The center has fallen apart. Everyone feels it. In this era, people are begging for a hero who will fix the problems, the wars, the death, the misery, the terror of it all. They want you to save them. What the Phantom Zone taught me is that I do too, but you never will. Because deep down, you're a coward, Superman. That was my epiphany. Now excuse me while I do what you want and save the blank world. And he punctuates his speech by firing shards of kryptonite into Superman's body. And whoa, what a speech! What a villain moment! I loved it. Lex is my favorite comic book villain, and Superman's my favorite hero, my favorite character in all of comics. And this was awesome. I loved this. This was so cool. And it harkens back to Superman's Secret Origin. I don't know if Scott Snyder did that on purpose. I'm thinking probably not. But I was able to draw some parallels there, because if you remember in Secret Origin, in the beginning of that, when Superman first comes to Metropolis, Lex is doing this lottery where he goes out in front of the people of Metropolis and he chooses one person to change their life. He chooses one person. The people of Metropolis are always there. They're always begging every morning, waiting for when Lex shows up. And then when Superman goes and he starts helping people, people stop doing that. And there's a point where when Superman starts helping people, the people of Metropolis are like, "Hey, Superman, you helped us. You know, you were sent here to help us, right? That's what you're here for." And Superman tells the people, he's like, "I want you to stop looking for a great savior. Lex Luthor isn't it. I'm not it." And he tells them that you are, like all of you are. He's like, "I do what I do because I was given a gift, but all of you were given gifts too." And he tells them to help each other and that he's not there to fix every single person's problem. And then in the end, he tells Lex that the people of Metropolis don't belong to him, and they don't belong to Superman either. They're their own people, and it's really great. And I like that moment. I feel like that kind of correlates with what's going on here, where Lex is like, if you have absolute power, you should take advantage of it to force people to be good, to force everything to be great, not necessarily to push people in the right direction, but to strip them of their free will and make everything perfect. But Superman has no desire to play God, and he doesn't view it as right if he were the one to dictate how everything goes moving forward, if he were the one to decide what is right and what is wrong, and this is exactly how the universe is going to go and remake it in his image, to where Lex thinks that is the correct thing to do. That is what must be done, and he views Superman as a huge coward for not taking the necessary steps and doing that. And I thought that's interesting, and I love seeing Lex's perspective on that. And I love being able to look back at Secret Origin and see that and be like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I really enjoyed that part of this comic. Superman is now on his knees, missing a hand, shards of kryptonite in his body, slowly dying. Lex left him in this condition on purpose. He could have killed him, but he chose not to, so that way Superman could see everything he tried to do completely fail and see Lex succeed. And then we go and we see what the rest of the members of this tournament are doing. We see that Starro and Lobo both go for Bane's Venom, and Lobo is able to snag it before Starro can, and Starro sends out, his mini Starros to mind control some other people. And through this, we get Zatanna and Starro fighting, and Starro calls Zatanna an abracadabras. So that was one of the highlights for me. Really enjoyed that bit. We just see a bunch of different people going after different items and fighting, and we see Star Sapphire go after all the power rings, and she's able to grab them, and then Lex tries to grab them. She's like, "Nope, I got him," but Lex is able to grab the black ring, and she's just like, "All right, that's fine. There's nothing dead here to control. What's the purpose of having a black ring?" And Lex is like, "The black ring was the only one I actually wanted." And then he brings back to life the celestial gods that Darkseid had killed here. And again, just such a cool moment. Lex, ever the strategist, the smartest guy in the DC universe. Of course, he had this idea, he had this strategy from the get-go. That's sick. I love that from the start when the announcer told them what was going on here. He instantly was like, "Yep, I'm gonna go get the Black Power Ring to bring back the Celestial Gods, and then I'll be able to win." It's so cool. And then we see Kara, Supergirl, go to Cal and be like, "Hey, Cal, take this." She tries to give him Psycho Pirate's mask, like, so that way you have an item. I'll just go find something else. It was cool seeing Kara, actually try to help, because everyone else is very much just in it for themselves other than Superman. So it's cool seeing Supergirl try to help her cousin out, but then she gets automatopoeia'd out of there by Captain Atom. He just booms, he just hits her out of there and grabs Psycho Pirate's mask. And then we get a really cool moment to where Superman realizes what the secret item was, because at the beginning when the announcer tells them all the different items, it also says, and there's one secret hidden item that will be revealed later. Superman remembers the rules that state, follow the example of Darkseid and you shall be rewarded. Well, if you remember in the All-In special, Darkseid killed himself via the Justice League to set up the Absolute Universe. So Clark grabs the kryptonite shard in his shoulder and plunges it into his heart. And when that happens, he gets the mystery item, which was the Omega Sanction, the power of Darkseid. And it's a pretty cool moment. He comes out and he's like, "I'm Superman," and Superman is. And I'm generally pretty tired of the Darkseid is stuff. I think Tom King kind of beat that into the dirt, and I kind of hate it anytime there's Darkseid is. But this was pretty cool. And Superman uses this ability to decimate the Elder Gods. And also something that's interesting is when he does it, the narration says he decimates the Elder Gods and it feels good. So it's like, ooh, are we getting some Superman fall into the dark side type stuff? He's going to have to fight this temptation. What's going on here? Because, generally speaking, Superman decimating people doesn't really feel good to him. But here he's having to follow the example of Darkseid, and then it feels good. It's like, oh, Superman's Superman's fallen to the dark side right now. So I wonder if that will be, I'm guessing that will be a theme that is explored later, and we'll see how that goes. Because when KO was first announced and they were talking about this, I thought that Superman was going to throw instantly and figure out some other way to beat Darkseid, because I figured, fight fire with fire, it wasn't really Superman's MO, and I didn't think Superman would be like, oh, I got to get down and dirty with Darkseid to beat him. I thought Superman would find a better way, and so I thought he would throw instantly and find some other way. But so far, I've been completely wrong, and he's been going through it. But with this right here, it seems like Superman, they might explore that a little bit. Not with him throwing, but him having to figure out another way instead of following Darkseid. Because right now, he's fully plunged into it and following Darkseid's example, which doesn't feel very Superman. But I'm interested to see where that goes. And then we see Guy Gardner grab the final item, and that's it. That's the end of this stage 2. Then we go to the Watchtower outside the tournament, where we have the Time people, Time Trapper, Booster Gold, and Gorilla Grodd, and the World Forger and all them, who are slowing down time, so that way this can happen. And if you remember, at the end of last issue, it was revealed that Darkseid is in Booster Gold, and he reveals himself to Time Trapper here, and that's the very end of the issue, because he's like, it's time, Darkseid entered the arena. And that's the end of that. So I really enjoyed this issue. I liked it a lot. My only complaint, really, other than Harley, who I hate, is that we're 2 issues into a 4-issue story, and it hasn't delivered on the tournament. Because at the beginning, they released the bracket, and it's like, oh, it's gonna be 1v1s. There's gonna be other crazy stuff going on, but we're gonna get these fights. And 2 issues in, and it's all been a free-for-all the whole time. We haven't actually had the, here's what's going to go on. Now, we're going to be getting them in the spin-off issues and the tie-in issues. And I'm assuming we'll get some in KO number 3, hopefully. But that's been my only complaint. I was hoping that 2 issues in, which, 2 months into the event then, we would get some actual, some of the tournament that was promised to us in the bracket. But we're now down to 16 people, and we were lied to by the bracket completely. And I'm fine with some curveballs here and there, but it's like, man, I wish you would have delivered a little more on that end. But still, I'm excited to see how it goes. Hopefully the spinoffs or the tie-ins are good. The first, Night Fight, the Joshua Williamson Batman one, where Batman's fighting different Robins that become different versions of Batman with Dan Mora on art. The first issue of that was really good. But this KO number 2 was amazing. I really enjoyed this a lot. And I was not huge on the first issue of KO. I thought it was broken down in chapters. Like the first 2 or 3 chapters were not too great. It was a lot of cosmic gobbledygook, and I didn't care for it. And then once it got into the actual action, things started happening. I enjoyed it. This one being just the actual action of it was really good. And that's what I'm hoping for this event, because that's what I think Snyder does really well. And I think when he gets too big for his britches and gets too cosmic and crazy, that's where things fall apart. But when it's just straightforward action and character stuff, I think he can do really good. Like the Superman Lex stuff in here is top tier, and I really loved it. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you read DCKO number 2, I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. What'd you think about it? Do you have any predictions for where this is going to go? And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see y'all later.
Hey, skinny boy, saucy boy, I be running to the bank. Yeah, I hit the gas in the whip full tank. Riding past the ocean while I'm listening to Frank.